Welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Unveiling with your host, psychic medium, and lead investigator for the Paranormal Science Investigators team, Josh. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show while we talk about pretty much whatever the hell we want, as long as it's weird, true, creepy, controversial, or informative about the paranormal. So follow me as I try to give you a peek behind the veil.
Maybe.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Unveiling. Today, I've got a special kind of guest, and this isn't typically something that I would do personally. And the reason why I'm having my guest today on is because she has agreed to, number one, and number two, she believes that if other people can hear her story, it might help them understand what they might be going through. My guest today was actually a private residential case that I took on with my sister with Luna Paranormal. You probably have heard, if you've listened to other episodes, a few references to this case. And that's kind of why we're doing this. Miss Amber, your house was the one that we visited for this case. And I know there was a lot going on, and there's a lot that I know about the case, but our viewers may not know. Can you kind of describe of how things kind of started out, what was happening, things that you experienced maybe?
Sure. So when we bought this house, the only thing we really knew was that it had been sitting empty for quite some time, about a year to 2 years. It had been vandalized. People had been in and out. So, I mean, we enjoy a fixing up, renovating process. No big deal for us. We knew it was going to be a challenge, and I know even when you guys came, we were still in the middle of remodeling.
Right.
But one thing we started to notice as we were doing remodeling, which we even brought in other people to remodel, we were ripping up all the subfloors in the house, and we started from the back by our laundry room and working our way to the kitchen and such. And several people who were working on this subfloor project would make mention to other workers. They'd be like, hey, like, what'd you do with, my hammer? What'd you do with my saw? Where's this? Where'd you put the nails? Like, I swear I just had it.
Right.
But you don't ever really put too much thought into those things because,
Right.
When you're working, fine, you get up, you kind of put something down, you don't think about it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I've done the same thing,
Right.
but even while we were doing repairs, as far as ripping out the old drywall that was bad or putting up new drywall, we would come across the same issue. Our screwdrivers, our screws would start disappearing from where we know we set them, things like that. But, in the back of your mind, you still don't really even think about it. So we did quite a bit of remodeling for the first few months before we actually moved in. So it was kind of, we didn't notice a lot to put anything, into play.
Okay.
Once we finally moved in, I mean, we didn't talk about any experiences until about the time shortly before you guys came. It was kind of, everybody had different experiences, but they kept to themselves.
Okay.
Some of the things that some of my children had seen, I have 5 children. I'll start by saying they were 4, 5, 13, 14, and 16 at this time.
Let me just preface this by saying that that your children are also gifted.
Yes.
Let's just
Yes.
say that they have gifts.
And my two oldest are also special needs.
Hmm.
My oldest, my 16-year-old is my boy, and then all the others are girls.
Right.
Um, so my son didn't really notice so much because he's kind of got his head in games,
Right.
fair enough. But um, they would start to notice, they would see shadows kind of in the house. They would hear voices whispering. Um, we would notice the doors kind of open, cabinet doors opening, just small little things like that. But, again, you don't really think about it because there are other kids in the house. So you
Right.
just don't think, hey, maybe somebody just opened it and didn't shut it.
Right.
No big deal.
It's natural to explain it away a little bit.
Absolutely. And, my husband, I do want to say he's a complete staunch non-believer in the paranormal. For one, I'm a non-believer. This does not exist. It doesn't happen. There's no such thing as the paranormal. Um, so,
That's going
um,
to be a very funny assertion here in a little while.
yeah, that's no lie. Um, so as time goes on, when things really start to progress, we was in the house for only about probably 8 or 9 months,
Mhm.
and things had just got progressively worse to where all of our mental health was completely deteriorating. Mainly so, my 14-year-old daughter, who had special needs. It seemed like whatever was in the house kind of really started to gnaw away at her first.
Mhm.
Um, she became extremely paranoid, reclusive. Every night she would get up screaming, crying that there was a shadow man with red eyes and horns that was in her closet.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just at our home, it would follow her to school.
Okay.
Um, I do even have emails from her teachers stating that she would go to school and see this shadow figure in the class, and it would scare her, and it would begin to whisper things to her to tell her to not only kill us, stab us to death while we slept, but to also stab herself and commit suicide.
Right.
Um, and I had asked her one day, when things progressively, got so bad, I said, just out of curiosity, I said, hey, draw me a picture of what you see, because she's special needs, she's very artistic, and
Yes.
she drew
Yes.
me this picture, and it looked very demonic. And I know not everything's demon. That's not what
Right.
I thought it was, but I knew it was something definitely malevolent. There was bad negative energy in here. We were all fighting. Um, I was extremely suicidal. Um, my husband was extremely angry, agitated. He did not want to come home. Um, he didn't want to be around me. He didn't want to be around his kids. He was so angry at everything in the world. Um, my 14-year-old eventually got to the point at school that she did attempt to commit suicide. She
Right.
was then taken to a hospital and was put into a mental institution for a week.
Right. I remember.
Yeah. So when we got her out, what I did was, when she came back, I'm not I'm not extremely religious. I like, we had spoke before. I did grow up, through a Catholic church, through Jehovah's Witness, through Christian.
Mhm.
My grandparents raised me very Christian. So I thought, well, I'll try to just ease her fears. And I hung a crucifix on her closet door.
Mhm.
And the strange thing was, after I did that, my stepdaughter, my 13-year-old stepdaughter, that same night she woke up screaming because she heard something running out of her closet towards her bed. And she started becoming extremely suicidal to the point 3 days after I did that, she ran away from our house up the road and was going to commit suicide by jumping off of a 90-foot quarry ledge.
Wow.
So we took her to the emergency room, and she spent a week in the hospital as well.
Mm-hmm.
About that time, we're just all completely just losing it.
Right.
I mean, I myself, I was having a hard time. I'm not gonna lie, I was depressed. I wanted to commit suicide. Um, then my husband, like I said, my husband did not want to come home. I mean, he just knew that home was just bad. He could tell something was wrong. I know he could.
Right.
Um, so strangely enough, um, I put cameras up around my house because I have some shady neighbors, but I have cameras inside my house as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I started going back and looking at some of the things that was going on in my house. Because I do have a cat and I have dogs.
Right.
So I was trying to go back and look at some of these incidents that were going on in the house. And some of the things I had caught, which I know I sent you, but I'm gonna tell the viewers about. I had a vase of flowers sitting on the middle of my table in my kitchen, and it had spun on its own and then slid and flew off the table, all on its own.
And just for the viewers, let me tell you that video right there was the defining video, which when I was brought in on the case, I saw that, and that's what made me go all in. I mean, just that video alone, not to mention the other things that we saw captured, but that video alone, I'm going to tell you guys, it my jaw just dropped.
Yeah, it seems to be one of the favorite videos that a lot of people ask us to see.
Right. Yeah.
We had bar stools, heavy duty bar stools,
Mm-hmm.
slide out from underneath of our kitchen table and sling across the room. The doors opening. We had boxes moving. Several different things that we had caught on our cameras. And, here we just tried to explain it away as, oh, the cat did it, the dogs did it, something like that, or the kids did it.
Right.
So about this time, we all start kind of talking together like, hey, look, okay, this is what's going on. The kids are starting to say this, see this. Things escalated pretty quickly. I mean, we were hearing footsteps, we were hearing voices, growling. Um, like I said, our kids were under attack mentally. But my husband's like, no, no, all this can be explained. I showed him all the videos, and he said, oh, it could be fake. You're faking it somehow. And I said, oh, okay. Um, so his kind of aha moment, we was laying in bed one night, and where he sleeps is right next to our bathroom door. And we were watching a movie, and you could hear the doorknob turn and the bathroom door open on its own. So I kind of looked over at him and I said, okay, Matt, explain that one. And you could just see like sheer panic on his face where he's just kind of like, okay, we got to call somebody.
Right.
So I was like, well, I don't know who to call. My grandpa had just passed away. I probably would have called him first.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's very religious. I would have called him first, but he just had passed away. So that kind of didn't leave me any options. So strangely enough, my mom actually sends me a lot of TikTok videos. I wasn't on TikTok, but she
Okay.
always sends me TikTok videos. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll get on TikTok. And one night I was scrolling through and I come across your sister, Luna's
Hmm.
live. She was doing her medium readings. And I was just kind of listening in, and I was like, hey, okay, this girl's pretty good, and so I got on her page, and it just so happened like that day she had posted a video asking if anybody had any paranormal experiences. She wanted to travel to go help people.
Right.
And I thought, okay, this just must be a sign of some sort.
The
So
universe
I
is talking to
messaged,
you.
yeah, so I messaged her and I said, hey, I said, I got some videos I want to send you. And I started kind of explaining to her some of the things that were going on.
Right.
So she's kind of like, okay, yeah, you got some stuff. I want to come out. So she made plans to come out. And then last minute, she kind of called and she said, hey, I'm going to send a paranormal team, which was Longhorn Paranormal from Arizona.
Hmm.
She said, I'm going to send them out ahead of me to start gathering some evidence. So they came out for about a week and set up
Hmm.
cameras and things like that. And, they caught whatever they caught.
Right.
Because we did have a few things, go on there.
Right.
But I know it seemed like once I got a hold of Luna, things escalated extremely quickly. Um, I had been slapped in the face while I was sleeping. Um, I had my kids were starting to get drug out of bed. They were getting their hair pulled. My dogs were being attacked. I mean, it became extremely, extremely violent. Like it knew you guys were coming.
Right. And just for the viewers, typically, uh, in my experience, at least, I don't know if everybody has this experience, but when you have people that are involved in the way that Luna and I are involved, things kind of, and I think we kind of warned you, hey, look, things may pick up now that it knows that somebody who can handle this is coming. It may retaliate. And I believe we told you be prepared and just hold strong till we can get there. Because
Yeah,
I mean, Luna is on the West Coast. I'm in the deep South. You're way up north from us. So we did everything we could to kind of prepare you until we could get there. So
right,
it's typically kind of what happens when they know somebody's coming that they can handle them. And we saw that exact thing happen.
right. So I know one thing we started doing um, when you guys were kind of all on the way is we went to our local historical society and started pulling old newspaper articles. Our home is probably about, I don't know what, 250, 300 feet from one of the first quarries that opened here in southern Indiana in our county.
Right. Big
And
limestone quarry. Big
yeah,
limestone quarry.
yeah. And it operated for over 100 years. And the one thing we learned is that there was a lot of gruesome accidents and deaths, but even after they shut the quarries down, people still go back there and trespass, and they go diving off these 90-foot cliffs into this water, and they still are dying these tragic, tragic deaths. I mean, I think that the youngest death we saw on the property was an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old boy that had died in that quarry hole.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we counted over 20 some deaths, not to mention freak accidents, just in the quarry work alone.
Right.
Not to mention, several years we had found they had murdered somebody. I think it was a woman, and somebody had cut her up and threw her into the quarry. And they had pulled out a car with a body in it out of this quarry at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's been a dumping ground as well for
Right.
victims.
And to be fair, I didn't know any of this when I came.
No, absolutely not. Because
Uh,
until Longhorn Paranormal got here, and until you and Lizzie got here, I did not talk to any of you guys about any of this.
what the information you had found, yeah. And
Right.
we
Because
wanted
I
it that
wanted it,
way.
yes, and I wanted it to make sure that it was a good, a real experience.
A
Like, I
legitimate,
didn't
yeah.
want to feed any information,
Right.
you know. So,
Right. Yeah. So it definitely, Longhorn did a lot of research. Jen, they did a lot of research on the property, the surrounding property, and that was all withheld from Luna and I. And I want to make that very clear, because we did pick up on things,
yep.
especially when we took a walk out to the quarry. We picked up on things that we couldn't possibly know, and some specific stuff. I think you and I and Jen were walked out to the quarry, and I picked up on a female. I picked up on pieces of her being
Mm-hmm.
in that water. And I think maybe there's probably still a piece or two in there, but that was something that I picked up on it. Um, so I just, Amber really wanted to make sure that we weren't just coming in there blowing smoke, and she wanted a legitimate team and people to come in there and, for lack of a better term, prove that we were what we said we were. So
Yeah, I mean, not to mention the fact that, you guys came as, especially your sister as a medium, and got in contact with our passed on relatives
mhm.
to give us messages to pass on to our other family members. It's so
Right.
I know there's no way you guys could have found out that certain information about certain members of our
Right.
family. So I know you guys are genuine and know what you're doing. So,
Well,
but
let me ask you, and I know a lot went on at your house, and it wasn't just in your house; it was around your house. And
yep.
for so everybody understands, it wasn't just your house. Your
Nope.
neighbors are experiencing or were experiencing stuff. Probably continue to experience stuff because they refused help
Mm-hmm.
while we were there. But it was such a complicated case because it wasn't just some spirit in the house being a jerk. There was a lot of elemental activity, energy out there on your property, a lot of indigenous energies on the property. um, and like I said, we didn't know any of this information. Luna and I did not know this. This was research previous to us getting there, and it was withheld from us for good reason. And I know when I walked out there, I think you were with me, Jen was with me, and I think Luna was with me before we'd walked out towards the quarry. I saw uh, uh, an indigenous person standing in the woods,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a road that with a gate there where we were kind of going through, but it was like almost like a battleground where there was a lot of indigenous energy on one side, but then there was the elemental energy on the other side, and it was almost like they were really paying attention to the situation that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
um and it was just such a complicated case. Now let me ask you, after all of this, it had I know that you guys have abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of your daughters in particular, which I don't want to name names because they're kids, but I know I had a little conversation with her before we left, and told her, if she ever has questions, because she is very similar in her energies as to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one day she's going to be ready to explore that, and if I can help her, definitely offered. And just because we left there and the investigation was over, that we didn't just leave you high and dry. We talked
No,
to you
yeah.
guys often. um but how about yourself? What I know you have a good deal of intuition, and you can feel energies and stuff like that. Has this been something that has kind of gone on your whole life, or was this your first instance of things happening?
No, even when I was little, I would see things.
Mm-hmm.
My mom would always just kind of be like, hey, they're just kind of invisible friends. And then, as you get older, you're kind of always taught, okay, you need to put those invisible friends away. They don't exist. And you kind of just grow up and try to put it away.
Right.
But I have known my whole life, no matter where I go, I know that there's always been a male presence with me. I
Mm-hmm.
can't say who it is, but I know this man has always been with me since I was little. I just know no matter where I go, he's always been with me. I can feel him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I know since you guys have left, I've talked with Luna some about getting those mediumship abilities kind of back in tune,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been able to do that.
Good. Good.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy experience when you
Yes, it
take
is
it.
a journey, and something I will tell you is, don't expect everything all at once overnight. um you have to, it's almost like a plant. You kind of have to grow those. You start to experience things and understand energies, and you start to trust yourself more. So I hope that, and my sister, she is a very good teacher. She's very articulate, very smart, has went through some very good development, and can show people that she's way better at than I am even. But I hope you continue with that, because um it's I think in the long run, part of the issues that you may have stemmed from trying to block that out.
I believe so. And I mean, like you said, we've kind of learned that pretty much everybody in my household of a family of seven has an ability of some sense.
Right.
So
Developed and undeveloped, yeah.
yeah, I mean, my 5-year-old, when they were doing the investigation, when Longhorn Paranormal was doing the investigation, my 5-year-old had made the statement to Jen. She said, "Did you ever see those people out in the woods with the pretty makeup on their face?" And Jen had said, "Well, hey, can you draw a picture of what that looks like?" I still have a picture of the picture because it blew us away because my 5-year-old sat and drew a picture of a Native American with war paint.
Mm-hmm.
We don't watch cowboy and Indian movies. We don't, I don't know
Right.
how she would have known about a native in any way.
Right.
So for her to draw this, you know, this native, you could tell the long black hair and the red and such, war paint on the face. It was amazing. And she
Right.
says that she sees them in the woods,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I know that she has that ability.
Right. And it was, I don't think I've ever been in a house where so many people with abilities reside. Which was another, it was a concern of mine. And I think I talked to Luna, like, how do we help them keep this out when everybody here can draw them in? Everybody here can
It's like a
see, hear, and
lighthouse.
feel them. Yeah, it's like a bank of searchlights. It's sitting on top of your roof, that every spirit in the area can see. So that was one of the concerns for me. It was like, how do we help them kind of keep this at bay, um because instinctually and intentionally, sometimes I think probably more instinctually, you guys have the ability to draw these things in and see them and connect with them. And because you can, they come.
Mhm.
Some good, some not so good, some friendly, some not so friendly. Um,
Right.
so it was a big concern for me, at your house. Now, your husband, he, I'm just going to tell you, when I first got there, he was in good spirits, it seemed like, but you could tell he was just like, well, I mean, what, more of the trying to explain it away. It's not real. But there was an instance where uh, you and him and Jen and Luna walked out in the woods. And can you want to describe that? What happened when you four walked out there?
Sure. So we got permission from the owner of the quarries to
Mm-hmm.
go back there and do an investigation. And we went back there in late at night, of course, to do an investigation. And we were doing a voice box session,
Mm-hmm.
and we were getting in contact with actually a lot of native spirits. They were saying a lot of words that, we couldn't understand because they were
Right.
speaking in their native language.
Right.
Um, but then it kind of seemed like all at once we all picked up on this energy shift.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, they're kind of done with us being there. We need to leave. So your sister's kind of like, okay, we need to leave now. So
Right.
we kind of packed it up real quick and started to walk out. And about that time, the voice box had yelled out, Matt, which is my husband's name. And at that exact second it said that, he had been touched on the back of his neck.
Right.
And he pretty much, I mean, you would have to see the video. I still watch it to this day and giggle to myself to see his face just go ghost white,
Right.
because he did. I think he was like almost on the verge of tears because he felt something that he finally can't explain it away.
Right.
So he was pretty happy to get out of the quarry, out of the woods.
I know he was. I know he was. He was ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So,
anytime I play that video, he still gets chills, and he said he
right.
can still like feel it on the back of his neck when he thinks about it.
Right. And the first time you get touched is it it, it can be quite unnerving. Whether it's a good or bad touch, just something that you can't see, you can feel a hand, like you
Right.
can make out a legitimate hand on you, and it can freak you out. So I completely understand, especially the statement you made earlier. Here's the point where this gets really funny: is he was a staunch non-believer. I
Yeah.
mean, this is all BS. You guys are full of shit.
Yep.
Um, and then that happened because when I met you guys when we first got there, you could see he was definitely just trying to explain it away. He almost seemed disinterested, for lack of a better term, of these guys are foolish coming in here trying to find something. And then
Right.
after that happened, I saw him when he came back and he was sitting on the porch, and I could see in his eyes that like his whole belief system was just crashed and burned. And
Yep.
he was trying to figure out how to explain that. And he was just, it was almost like a trance for a minute. And I was a little concerned when I first saw him, and I was like, man. And then when you guys told me what had happened, I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's where your beliefs kind of get thrown out the window, and you got to figure out something else. And that was the look on his face, from
Right.
staunch disbeliever to holy crap, what just happened. it,
Right.
it was it was kind of amazing, and from my point of view, um maybe not in his point of view. He probably would tell a different story, but I thought that was really funny when you mentioned that he was definitely a disbeliever. um
Oh yeah. I
he
mean,
is not now.
yeah. But I think another thing that really kind of made him start to really believe you guys was when we were sitting, outside, and you and Luna had went in, even really before kind of even talking with us about anything. It's kind of, hi, I'm Josh, hi, I'm Luna.
Right.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
going into your house.
Let's get to work. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you guys sit out here, we're just gonna walk around, see what we get.
Right.
Um, when you guys got in that rocking chair, in his big comfy rocking chair, that
Hmm.
he would come home and he would sit in, to watch his TV and stuff. And it seemed like you both had just immediately picked up, like, hey, this spot is just like a suction of just anger.
Negativity. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I walked into that room about 3 feet in, right, which is probably another 5 feet from that chair, I instantly looked at Luna and I was like, sis, I feel angry right now. I have
Mm-hmm.
no reason to be angry at anything. If anything, I should have been dog tired because we had drove all 9 hours.
Yeah, I know.
But I got angry. Like I could feel anger welling up. And I told Luna, I said, sis, I'm just going to explain this to you because you'll understand it. But if I lived here and I was standing here, I feel like I want to just punch you, like for
Yep.
no good reason. Like I want to just beat the shit out of somebody. And
Yeah.
you're standing here. And that's the anger that I felt in just that spot. It was so weird. It was like just this ball of negativity. And it was
But it's,
crazy spot.
yeah, and it's like, as soon as you guys come out and said that, I mean, he started to cry, because it was, to him, is like, it is like that oh shit moment, like, okay,
It explained a lot for him.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm so angry. I come home, I sit in that chair, and I don't want to get out of it. The kids ask, hey, will you give me a snack? I just want to stand up and just, God,
Right. Right.
and that's not really, well, I mean, yeah, my husband's kind of known to have an attitude, but not like this.
Right. Right.
Um,
This
you
was
know,
definitely something else affecting,
oh yeah,
like an oppression almost. I hesitate to say that, but similar to an oppression. Like he was definitely picking up on that negativity and it was affecting him. And
yeah,
from what I know afterwards of being around him, he didn't seem like that type of person to be that deep-seated anger towards people.
yeah,
uh,
no,
he was pretty jovial, most other times, when especially when he was outside the house.
yeah,
um it was a totally different person than when he was inside the house. And
yeah,
he's sitting in that spot every day. I couldn't imagine every day just getting bombarded. It was just so crazy to me. That was the very first thing we picked up when we walked in there. It was like, holy crap, no wonder. you know
yeah. Even after you guys did your cleansing and everything, it took him a good month to sit in the chair. He even moved it to a different spot. We rearranged the whole living room, and he still wouldn't sit in that chair for a month because he was so scared. So we
Right.
went from staunch non-believer to, hey, I don't, yeah,
I'm not
I
going to
don't want
tempt
to
fate.
mess with that again.
Right. Right. Now let me ask you, the feeling in the house, is it after the cleansing? We discovered a couple of portals that we believe
Yeah,
were in there. One was where that chair was.
yeah,
um, we picked up, and I believe we were able to, through our ritual, for lack of a better term, close that. Was there, once he finally sat back in the chair, was there relief?
oh yeah.
it,
I
it
mean,
wasn't the same.
well, and as you know, and it was, the video was posted on YouTube, on Luna's YouTube channel, when you guys were doing that cleansing. Strangely enough, me and Luna was coming around the corner, and as you guys were cleansing the house, that chair was actually rocking on its own.
Right. And I heard you guys go, dude, the chair is rocking. And I was we were kind of just in, it's not like we were real far apart, but as soon as I heard that, I just poked around the corner into the living room there, and that darn thing was
Yeah.
rocking. And the feeling that I got, Luna was a little bit different. Like she got more, a little more feeling with it. I don't know if maybe she was standing closer, but I really got the feeling that when that chair started rocking, and we're all standing there in disbelief, like, holy crap, this is happening right in front of our eyes. Like, we
Yeah.
don't need to capture this on a security camera. We are watching this thing rock like somebody's sitting in it. And the feeling that I got from it was this spirit that was in here just sat down, just almost in defiance. Like, you can't get rid of me.
That's exactly how I felt.
Right. And it was crazy to just all of a sudden, I mean, it looked like somebody was sitting in that chair rocking.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the dog bumped it and it was kind of wiggling a little bit. It was rocking.
No, and as you know, the dogs are put up in their cages.
Right. Yeah. And they, yeah, everybody was, and we did these things because uh, to not contaminate evidence. Right. So
Right.
it made it even that more amazing. And that's the feeling that I got. It was just pure defiance. Like, you can't get rid of me.
Yeah.
And
That's kind of the feeling that I got from that moment
right.
was, hey, I'm here to stay. I'm comfortable.
Yeah,
I'm not going nowhere.
you can't do anything. Now, let me ask you, do you feel like we got rid of that?
Oh yeah, it's night and day difference. After everything, and I mean, we had other friends and things like that even experience activities in our house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they kind of didn't want to come back anymore.
Right.
But after you guys left, they come back and they said, this feels, and they said even it almost looks like a different house.
Right.
It had a whole different demeanor, different feel, just a different vibe to it.
Right.
I mean, completely changed. It was lighter, it was brighter. I mean, and even the property, because you guys went around and salted some of the property.
Right.
Because, like we said, it's not just the house, it's actually a whole land issue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we had three of our neighbors, talking about their paranormal issues. They were seeing the same things that we were seeing, the shadow figures, the hearing the footsteps, the whispers, the growls. Our neighbor had her kids drug out of bed down the hallways. They were being attacked. They were catching figures outside of their house standing on their security cameras. So it
Right.
wasn't just us. It
Right.
is
Yeah.
literally this whole area.
Right. And you
And
guys are sitting on one giant leap of limestone, which,
yeah, yeah,
if you believe in the stone tape theory, is can be rough. And you guys are sitting on like the epicenter of limestone.
yeah. I mean,
So it doesn't surprise me that everybody in the area. Now, before
yeah,
we got there, you had, I mean, even the sheriff rolled up to tell
yep,
stories. I mean, one of the deputies, from what I understand, and neighbors were coming up and kind of giving their um, what happened to them or what's happening to them. And we did offer some service to the
yep,
neighbors, which was declined, and that's fine.
yep,
Um, I just after everything was kind of said and done, and I know, like we spoke earlier, you guys are like a giant bank of you know lights out there because of the gifts that you guys have. Um, so I suspect that there's probably things that kind of, I call them transient spirits. They kind of come by and kind of disrupt you for a minute. But the overall feeling of the house, how about the mental state of the kids and yourself and your husband? That has improved as well.
yeah. I mean, that day you guys cleansed it. Like I said, my special needs daughter, she could tell right away that that shadow figure that was in her closet was gone.
Right.
She has, and I ask her every once in a while, I said, do you ever see that? No, I don't see it no more. It's gone, Mom.
Good.
Okay, good. You know?
see that, and I'm extremely happy that we were able to give you guys a way, and not only did we just cleanse the house and come investigate, but we tried to give you the tools to be able to cleanse on your own,
Right.
which Luna is an expert at, and I still learn from her about it. She's way better at it than I am even. um we try to give you some tools because we knew with the abilities that your family has, that there was probably going to be something here or there that was going to try and peek back in, and you guys would be able
And
to
it
handle
has
on your own.
been.
And it, yeah, and but it's a lot less scary for you now.
Oh yeah,
You
no,
kind of
yeah, it's
understand.
nothing like it was. We
Right,
just say, hey, look, not right now. You need to leave. I'll deal with you later. You
right. I
know,
think the knowing kind of probably helped you guys a little bit, maybe
it did, and I think it
knowing.
helped. It helped Matt. I mean, there was an instance, and Matt will get real emotional. I'm sure if he ever watches this, he's probably gonna cry when I tell this story. Um, because I know when you guys did the house, we said that, positive spirits and family members would be allowed back in the house. That's kind of
Right,
how we set it up. Um, Probably about a month or so after, back in our laundry room, Matt was getting a drink out of our refrigerator. And back in our laundry room, we had heard a like a man clearing his throat.
okay.
And he thought, that's my grandpa.
I've
Because his
heard this
grandpa
story.
always his grandpa always did that, and he recognized that. He got
Yeah.
real emotional, but he walked over to our kitchen door, opened the door, and said, you have to leave. And he said I could feel that energy. He said I could feel it go right through him and out the door. He said I could feel it move right
Mhm.
out. He said, so he respected what I said and left. So my staunch
That's awesome.
non-believer
Right,
now understands, and he's okay.
right, yeah.
But he
And
doesn't want anything around anymore,
right, right,
even if
and
it was grandpa.
well, I think maybe over time when he starts to understand that even his energetic intuitions, because I think he's more of an energy feeler
Hmm.
than say a medium or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
I think your one daughter that I gravitated towards has a lot of elemental control, and I think she in the future will be the key um, to protecting your place. But Matt is definitely, he's a pretty strong intuitive, whether he wanted to admit it or not.
Yeah. He
Um,
kind of likes to tell everybody now. He's like,
right.
hey.
Yeah, and I hope that in the future that he'll trust that recognition when say grandpa comes around. He'll
Right.
trust that and not be like, look, even grandpa's got to go. He'll be like, okay, well, grandpa, how you doing? Glad
Yeah,
you came by to
that's what
check
I
on
used
us.
to that's
Oh,
why I try to tell him, like, you better
right.
not throw my grandpa out of this house.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think he'll get to that point. It takes time and getting used to, when you've spent, you know, however many years having that drilled into your head. It takes a little bit of deprogramming to understand it.
Yeah.
Um,
But
no
no,
more.
he's a whole different person.
Good,
This is the probably the happiest he's ever been in his life.
good.
I mean, you know, he's he's back playing with his kids. I mean, he's one of the best husbands to me. I mean, it is
Wow.
just a
Night
complete
and day.
180.
Yeah, night and day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's that. See, and that's the kind of thing that, um, I don't want to take credit, and I'm sure Lizzie wouldn't want to take credit for all of that because you guys put in some good work to get to that point too. Um, we involved you in this process because we wanted you. We can't do everything for you. You have to understand and learn how to take control of your home.
Right.
And I'm glad that we were able to teach you that. I'm very thankful that the person that you were guided to was my sister Luna.
Me too.
I I'm glad that she recognized that I would be of benefit and asked me to um, be a part of this case, because
I hope it left some lasting memories.
it really did. Like I said, especially your daughter, uh, mostly because it's not very often that I come upon somebody that is so similar in energy signature and what I believe her abilities are. Because I'm kind of weird. Like, I'm very naturally connected, and like I said, the elementals are my thing. And
Mhm.
I think you saw that when we did our walkthrough out to the quarry, that
Oh, absolutely.
the feeling between going out there with Luna and going out there with me, um,
Completely different.
yeah, it was a whole different experience, even though we were in the same spot.
Exact same spot, same path, same spot, completely different.
Right. So,
I
and
mean, the native presence was still the same, but that elemental thing was completely different.
right, right. And I think that's one of the, there's a lot of memories to this case, and I remember a lot of cases, not to diminish anything that I've done previous, but you get to know certain people, and you have certain cases that really have a lasting impact, and this was one of them for me personally. And a big part of that was, how do I explain, not being alone. Your daughter showed me that I am not the only one like me. I'm not some weird kind of character, that there are other people that can do the same things that I do. And
Right.
that's the first time I've ever come across that, where it was like the energy signature is, I can hardly tell myself from her, to be honest with you. And I think she's a big key of your guys' future success as well. When she's ready to develop that, I hope that I can, watch that develop, or even, help should you need me.
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
great.
but yeah, a lot of memories from this case. This is definitely, and I know you've seen, some of the show where we've kind of mentioned, hey, that's my house they're talking about. Um, so yeah, it's definitely memorable. I'm very curious. No, just to reiterate, no more suicidal thoughts from you or the kids. Nothing like that is true. Is school improving for the kids? They're not
Oh
seeing
yeah.
anything, not
Um,
having issues like that. Nothing's talking to them.
nope. I mean, my older two, and the thing is with my older two from my ex-husband, he's part Cherokee. So they have Cherokee blood,
Right.
which I don't know if that had something to play with some what was going on since, we had
Absolutely.
found that Cherokee were part of, that war that had happened on this land.
Right.
I believe it was a Cherokee, the Iroquois, and oh, I can't even remember the other one. The Sioux, maybe. I think it was the
I
Sioux.
remember the Cherokee and the Iroquois
Yeah,
having
I can't
land
remember the
disputes.
other one, but so their blood's all been spilt on this land,
Right.
and I know that their presence is still here. So I don't know how they feel, good or bad, towards having having them around.
Right.
Um, I don't know if that's kind of what came
Familiar.
into play why they attacked, I think, my daughter so much, being, not only is she a teenager, but she's special needs and part Cherokees. So she just kind of
Right.
got whammied. But
Right.
no, she's been doing fantastic. All of her
Right.
doctors, they've been able to even take her off some of her medication.
Now, and I don't want to get too personal. So if this is too personal, she had a kind of diagnosis that when you told us, we were like, no. I believe they were kind of throwing around the schizophrenia
They were talking about diagnosing her
diagnosis.
with that. But I had said, with schizophrenia, isn't that something that they have long term, like the hearing the voices, the seeing things? And that's one thing I told her doctor. I said, look, it's not just her that's seeing things and hearing things. I said, it's all of us.
Right.
And I showed her doctor some of these videos, and it made her doctor cry
Good. Good.
because she was so scared of some of these videos. I showed her the scratch marks I got on my back when I
Mhm.
was attacked. I showed her the fingerprint bruises from being drug out of bed. I mean,
Right.
it was, you know, it's like, okay, then if you're going to diagnose her as schizophrenic, you better diagnose us all because
Right.
it's a family disease then.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm glad that we could help. I'm glad to hear the update of how things are going like that. I'm ecstatic that you guys are doing so well. Um, I definitely wish you continued success, and I know that you have the tools. You're not just you, but your entire family have the tools to deal with these things in the future, and you
Right.
the knowledge now. Um, and I hope that you continue to try and educate yourself and learn on, how to keep your guys' whole family safe. Um, but I'll tell you, Matt really sticks in my head too. Just from the staunch disbeliever to where he is now, but not just that. But like I said, when I felt those feelings just walking in that by that chair, and then knowing that that's not the case now, like that is it's a huge relief for me to say
Right.
huge relief. I always kind of felt that the rest of you would be fine while I was there, that you guys would understand it easier. But I did have some concerns with him because of, how he's, been taught his entire life.
Yeah.
So I was concerned that he would, how he would progress, but it sounds like he's doing awesome. Sounds like you guys are all doing awesome.
Yeah. It's been great. Like I said, I mean, once the house was cleansed and those few dolls were removed and that Ouija board that was found,
That's
once
right.
those once those were removed from the property, it it's been different. I mean, like I said, yes, things we still have movement every once in a while. Like I said, one of my daughters got tapped last night in her sleep, got tapped on her back.
Yeah. Nothing
And
malevolent though, right?
no, no,
Good.
um, no, they are not. None of the kids are scared. My daughter, she still sees the Indian. She tells them hi. We still
Good.
give them offerings. They come out, talk to the Indian. Every time we come out towards the woods, she always talks to them. If we
Good.
walk down to the bus, she talks to them the whole way there.
Good. Good. I'm sure that they enjoy that, and I know that they have a connection with you guys, and not just that they're there, but a connection of protection for you guys. I
Right.
felt that overwhelming, like they were most willing to help get what was ever there off of that land of theirs, just as much as you wanted it off. You know, um,
Yeah, like I said, I mean, when me, you, and Jen went out there, and when we came back to that gate, I'll never forget that overwhelming feeling. I mean, you could just feel it was like a semicircle of that native presence surround us, and it
right.
felt so comforting and protective. Like, you know, it was a good feeling.
One thing you brought up a little bit earlier when the four of you walked out there. I stayed back at the house
Yeah,
with one of the other investigators was there, Christy. Uh, you mentioned that they kind of allowed you to hear them and feel them for a certain point, and then they were like, okay, that's enough. It's time for
yeah,
you to do something. We had that same experience when you and I walked out there, that they were willing to communicate for a little bit, and then they kind of let us know that, look, we've got it under control. That's all it needs to be said. And
Yeah, and the thing was which I thought was amazing when me, Einstein, Matt, Jen, and Luna had all walked down there. Luna had picked up on that woman, um, and she's kind of like, I pick up on this female here, and then we kind of just was like, she said it, recognized it, and we kind of went on.
right.
So then when me, you, and Jen went down, at that same exact spot, that's what you had said. You had stopped right about that same spot. And I know there's no way in hell you could know what that spot was, because that's the first time Luna went back there. And that was the first time you went back there.
Hmm.
And you went to that same exact spot and you stopped and you said, there's a female here. I can sense her. And that's when we stopped and we took the voice box out and you started making contact with her.
Right.
And it seemed like the natives were kind of seemed like they really wanted to protect her, and you started asking too many questions about her, and I think that's when we got into
Right.
she was telling us what pieces of her were still in the quarry,
Right.
and that's when the natives were like, okay, that's enough, stop,
Right. Yeah, they were very
you
protective
guys
over her
need to
spirit.
stop and move on.
Right. Very protective over her. And they kind of they alluded to the fact that, look, we've got her, we're taking care of her, she's fine. You guys don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
It was a very overwhelming feeling, not just the communications we got over the spirit box, but just the feeling there too, because we did get confirmation of what we were feeling over through that spirit box. But
Yeah, we
they
did.
let us know, yeah, and they let us know in no uncertain terms that they were protecting her. We didn't need to worry about it. It's okay, you can go on back to the house, kind of thing. It was interesting. Now, one thing I'd almost forgot about, and Luna will confirm this for you if you want, but when she started when she approached me to join in on this, I told her, I said, well, let me just see if I can feel into the situation and see what I feel. Even way down south here, sometimes we can read into the situation. And one of the things that I mentioned to her was, who's playing with the Ouija board? There's a Ouija board there, a Ouija
Mm-hmm.
board. I should say it correctly. And she's like, I don't know. That might be a good question to ask. And then, we did find that while we were there, we did an experiment. You had some dolls that you had brought in from a thrift sale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm not typically a fan of saying a doll is haunted. So I'm very skeptical of that. But when we got there, we conducted an experiment. How does the house feel with the dolls in the house? How does the house feel without the dolls? And we tried to capture evidence, and it seemed like when we took those dolls out, and we even kind of took them out without your knowledge,
Yeah.
just to experiment, so nothing could be contaminated. um and we took the dolls out, and everything just kind of stopped for a while. Like, it was, we were getting different bits of activity, and then it was just nothing.
Mm-hmm.
um are you glad you got rid of the dolls?
You know, yes and no. And here's why: because I had a really unhealthy attachment to one, and I believe that that's why it had an attachment to it, and it attached itself to me, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
I would baby that doll as if it was my own child. I when I got it, I got four of them. I bought two at one time. I bought one at another and one at another.
Mm-hmm.
And this one in particular, I had a lot of love for. I don't know why. I mean,
Right.
she was in really bad shape. I brought her home. I fixed her up. I sewn her. I took really, really good care of her. And I think that's why, is because maybe somehow I connected to that energy and that energy connected to me, if that makes sense.
You garnered a
So
relationship with it, yeah, like a
anytime,
friendship.
yeah. And the thing was without even knowing, because I know you guys would take it in and out of the house without me knowing, but I could feel the difference. Because when you would take it out of the house, my anxiety would go up. I would become agitated, real aggravated, even though I didn't know she was missing. I
Right,
could feel that missing. And even
right.
though I know that now they're taken, yeah, they're in a safe place.
Absolutely.
I know where they are. They're in a protected area and things like that. But I still feel that, like, oh, I still want her. I still
Right,
feel that unhealthy connection.
right. And
It's
you
like
know
a
that,
toxic relationship.
right, yeah. And it's not been a long time since we've been there.
No,
This,
it's
we're
not
not
been
talking
too
about
long.
years ago, we're talking months.
Yeah.
So I think over time that will lessen. Um, Part of the reason why I think you felt, and this is my own intuition, part of the reason why you felt a connection to that energy it's almost like the first time you connected to something like that.
Right.
It's almost like a drug. We that happens, and then when we don't have it anymore, it's like we're, an addict looking for the high again, which, we both know can be unhealthy no
Mm-hmm.
matter the situation. And one of the concerns I think we had, because we moved all of the dolls out, one of the concerns we had was if we did, say, a binding ritual or something like that, that in the midst of that it would jump to something else. So I not me so much, but I think the girls kind of had a chat with you and said, look, here's the dangers of this.
Mm-hmm.
um, Here's what we think is best, and kind of came to a conclusion of, let's just take these out. We'll keep them in a safe case where they can't bother anybody, that they'll still be safe, nothing will happen to them. When you knew that they left, what was the immediate feeling then? Was there anxiety to that?
There was, and a lot of depression, I think. It was almost like watching my child leave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, it's yeah, as time goes on, it's like I don't think about them as much, but it's like that certain kind of doll that it was. When I go to
Right,
the thrift stores and I see more of them, I'm tempted to get one.
right.
But
So
it's
here's the
like,
thing about
no.
this is the advice I give to people, because a lot of people like to, thrift shop, and
Hmm.
it's perfectly fine. The problem is you have to know what you're bringing to your house. uh,
Right.
I know I've had an instance where my son went to, they were doing a kind of an estate sale type deal through one of the churches that his buddy's grandfather is the pastor of. They were doing an estate sale to help this one of the congregation members, to help their family pay for some of the final costs. She had passed away. Well, he had brought this shell into the house, and within 2 minutes of that coming into the house, my daughter and I both were wandering around the house trying to figure out where this lady came from.
Right.
Um, and we've since explained to him why for us it's not the same. You can't just bring stuff in the house. It's okay to thrift shop, right? But we have to
Hmm.
understand how to cleanse items, how to, with your guys' gifts, you should be able to
Pick up on
intuitively
the energy.
feel that energy. And when you feel that kind of stuff, maybe that's not the item you want to bring in your house.
Yep.
If ever you get to where you feel confident where you can cleanse that energy away, I think in the case of the doll that you had, wouldn't be something that you could just cleanse away.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion. But there are, energy is attached to things, whether it's an intelligent spirit or just residual energy. you know um you kind of have to feel into that.
Yeah, no, and I definitely can, when we go shopping and I do pick up certain items and things like that, if I pick it up and I feel a certain kind of energy, the thing is it gives me like a migraine, which, that's another thing too, is we were having a lot of health issues,
Hmm.
when we first moved into the house that our doctors couldn't explain.
Right.
Me and my 5-year old were having constant migraines.
Mm.
I mean, we were on medication, had CAT scans, all that stuff, and they couldn't find anything wrong. And, Matt was always feeling sick. My older 2 girls were always having stomach issues and
Hmm.
things like that. My son always felt like he had the kind of fluey.
Yeah.
All the time were we sick. I mean,
Right.
had so many health issues. And it's like once those items were removed and that cleansing was done, we no longer suffer from those migraines. We no longer suffer from those stomach issues or feeling sick anymore. So it wasn't just even the mental aspect better, but our health has gotten better.
Right. And for the viewers, the reason why Amber is telling you these stories about her experience is so that others will understand that these are the types of things that can and do happen to some folks. And she really, we were talking earlier. This is kind of your intention behind, becoming more public with your story, is so that other people understand that, one, that they're not alone, that these things do happen, and there are people out there that can help you. But
Right.
two, that um, there's something that you can do about it. And the reason why we talk about, the before and after is because there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you're experiencing stuff like this, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Um, you can be helped. The right person can help you, and what's happening to you can get better. And that's been your experience with this in this particular house and on this particular land. And I think that's a very, it's a brave thing to come out to the public and say, hey, look, this is what was happening to us. Because there's lots of people out there that, don't
Or like
believe.
my husband.
Right. They don't believe, or they think you're full of crap, or you're just telling stories. But I think I admire you for coming out and coming public on your story, so other people can see that, uh, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
I mean, like I said, I ever since I was little, me and my sisters have always had things happen. We've
Hmm.
always had paranormal events in our homes. I believe my sisters have the same abilities I have, but they've also kind of lost touch with it. But they never had a situation like this. And like I said, I think it's just a mixture of the land, because it's not just us that is having this issue, and it's still
Right.
an ongoing issue around here.
Right.
I mean, there are still times at the bus stop I'll still talk to my neighbor and she's telling me something that's going on in her place,
Right.
so, but
Well,
I
hopefully,
have, oh,
hopefully
go
by
ahead.
listening to your story, that they understand that there is help if they choose to accept it.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Like I said, my neighbor straight, they straight refuse the help. And I'm not trying to, you know, dog any religion here, but their reply was, well, we believe in Jesus, we'll let Jesus handle it.
right.
Okay, that's fine. That's your belief. You can do that. But it just didn't work for us. And I mean, I'm not trying to sound offensive, but it's not working for them either.
Right. Yeah. It's and
Sometimes it just, you've got to open your mind to other things and accept other options. There's other possibilities, other things that
right.
can be done.
And you also know that I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person. We hold a lot of the same views, but one thing because I've encountered this before, that hey, what we know that there's obviously something not right, but we our faith, we believe God will handle it.
Hmm.
And I've told those people, look, um, sometimes people have to be the right hand of God. If
Yeah,
that's what you believe, sometimes people have to help him out.
right.
And not knocking religion whatsoever, but sometimes you have to, you know, your faith alone isn't going to make these things go away. You need to put into action some things, and there's people that can help you do that,
Right.
which you experienced, which and I'm so glad things are going well for you guys. I mean,
Well, like you said, I mean, I've dealt with stuff my whole life, and it was, you can always just kind of be like, okay, that's fine, I can deal with that. But what was going on here was too much. I have no doubt in my mind within the next few months, three of us would have committed suicide and been dead. No
right,
doubt in my mind. And the fact of the matter is, after you guys had left and we had talked to several other people around here and talked to them officers and looked up more information on the not just our property, but the properties around us, there has been 8 suicides in just our small little neighborhood.
wow,
So it is an extreme common thing. There, just a couple weeks ago, a woman was arrested over the hill. I mean, just like 2 houses down, because she went mentally insane, saying that the Navy SEALs was over here and she was seeing satellites. She literally went crazy.
right,
She was arrested and carted off to a mental institution. There was a man that went crazy running through here with a knife, trying, saying that things were out trying to get him. So I have no doubt whatever's on this land, it makes people crazy and do crazy things. Like I said, I have no doubt we would have we would have ended up dying. No doubt in my mind.
right, right.
It's
I'm
happened.
I'm glad you guys had the wherewithal to reach out, because that's a scary situation. And it's not uncommon. These things haunt you so relentlessly, that the only thing you can think of for relief is just not to be here. And
Right.
that's scary. That's scary that things can hold that much power over you until you realize how much power you hold over it.
Right. And
Right.
that's
And
one thing I, had to explain to my daughter is, just because this thing tells you to come kill us in our sleep or kill yourself, don't listen to it. That's what I had to keep telling her until you guys got here, but it was relentless talking to her. And I think it's because it knew, I'm not trying to say she was weak, but, being her how she is,
right.
her, conditions and such, she was the easiest to prey on.
Well, she was the most vulnerable situation.
Yeah. And, it's so either she would have eventually done it and killed us all, or she would have ended up
Right.
ending her own life. And I have no doubt, my other daughter would have, and I have no doubt I would have. I
Right.
mean, I'm an Army veteran, and I already suffer from anxiety and post traumatic stress disorder and depression and things like that. So you take people who already suffer from that, and then you stick them in this situation where something is, it knows what goes
Right.
on in your head and knows exactly where to keep picking and picking and picking.
Right.
It's gonna do it.
Right. When you're in a vulnerable situation, um, that's kind of the way these malevolent things work. It's almost like a fingernail on the inside, just scratching away, until you can't take it anymore. That's kind of the commonality of oppression. When you have something malevolent like that, they prey on those that they know and are weak, and not, and I don't mean weak in a bad term, but you're vulnerable.
Right.
You already have things that bother you, and they prey on that. They prey on that and use that to make it even worse.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, after you guys had left, I had a neighbor stop up here, never talked to her before. She stopped up and she said, "Look," she said, "I saw that, those people out here. I know, obviously you see Longhorn Paranormal on it."
Right. Big old
They
trailer.
she said, "Can I talk to you about something?" And I said, "Okay."
Hmm.
She said, this was about 5 years ago, I guess. She said, I was having some paranormal things going on in my house. And she said I would have cat food be thrown off my fridge, just all these different things, doors opening, closing, things
Right.
like that. And she said it was less than a year before her son, a young, not like teenager, but young kid,
Mhm.
he ended up going in the bathroom and committing suicide. But she said that she could tell an automatic difference once she got here and moved on to this area with her son.
Right.
And she had asked, and I felt so bad and I cried with her, because it's like, and I sat and explained to her, I said, that's exactly what happened with my kids. And then it's like here, my neighbor's house, before they moved in, two of them committed suicide in there.
Yeah.
I mean, like I told you, I knew that one man had went up, shot himself on the top of his house.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so it's just, it's a, I guess
Yeah.
people can call that, what do you call that? A coincidence? Okay,
Yeah.
I guess that's
It's
a coincidence.
it's not.
But
It's not. Yeah, your case is definitely bigger than just your house, for sure, because that whole area is just rife with energy. And there's been a lot of traumatic things happen on the land prior to, you know, folks really settling on it. There's a
yeah,
lot of native turmoil that went on that whole area. So, um,
well, I mean, even what the Native Americans named it, I think that should have been warning enough.
right. It's I know that the case is bigger, and I hope that those people, when if they get to that point where they're feeling that way, I hope they reach out to someone, and
Yes.
and you know, I think you're actually a good resource now for those people to empower them just by talking to them. You had a conversation with your neighbor. I'm sure that helped her understand that you know there's things that we just can't explain that cause events to happen. And they're as unfortunate as they are, it doesn't have to be. We
Right.
are stronger than anything that is on this plane with us. Um, and empowering those people and talking to you, and you getting them to understand that they have the power and the control, I think will help a lot of people. So you're a great resource. So if your neighbors would just come and talk to you and understand your experiences and how you did that, the tools that we gave you, um, you can pass on to them.
Oh,
Uh,
I definitely have.
right. Yeah.
Even the one who didn't want to listen, I keep telling them, look, I know you don't want to know, but you have four little children who are suffering. I
Right.
mean, I even speak with, some of their teachers, and they have said, because they're within our family, they have said, what's going on with these kids? And I said, look, what was going on in our house has kind of had to disperse around, and these kids are now being affected.
Right.
And they said, well, we can tell. I mean, they're coming to school tired, they're not sleeping, they're looking rough.
Right. Yeah.
And that breaks my heart because I know what my kids went through. And I hate to see these even littler kids going through this.
Right. Right. Well, I definitely hope that your neighbors and your friends and family seek help, and at the very least come talk to you, so you can help empower them, because I think we gave you a pretty good toolbox. I don't know if you believe the same thing, but I think that the empowerment we gave to you um, is a pretty damn good toolbox if you use
Yeah.
it.
Like I said, I mean, you guys put me back in touch with my true self. You've helped my kids realize, which, I never wanted to tell my kids, hey, whatever you see or hear is not true, because I know I didn't like it when people would tell me that growing up. So I never told my kids, hey, you need to put that stuff to the side,
Right.
you know. Um,
You empowered them.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I try to encourage my kids in their abilities as well, because, you know, I don't want them to lose that ability like I did and then have to try and get
Right.
it back.
Right. Well, Amber, I'm so glad that we got to talk to you and that you came on the show. Like I said, I believe you're a brave soul for coming forward and telling, your story of what happened to you, giving hope to maybe somebody else. I really appreciate you coming on the show and doing that. Like I said in the beginning, this isn't something I would normally do, but I felt like your story and your willingness to tell it and maybe help somebody else is a good thing. Now, there may be some out there that say, you shouldn't, put this kind of stuff out there with private cases. Well,
Well,
we thought
I
the
know
same
we got
thing.
some backlash from
Right.
that
We thought the
before, but
same thing.
I don't care because this is real life.
Yes, this is
I'm a real person. This is real family, real kids going through real things, and the world needs to be aware.
I,
And that's why I do it. We need to stop sweeping things under the rug just because they can't be explained. I mean, you need to accept the fact that this stuff does exist, and you need to embrace it and talk about it.
right, right. Well, I'm glad that you're doing that. And like I said, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Um,
Well, thank you for having
I
me and
admire
letting me
you
tell
for
my story.
I tell stories all the time, but for me it's not as a big a deal because I've dealt with this a long time and I understand it better than a lot of people do. I'm not saying I'm an expert or the end all to be all, but for me my experiences are different, so it's people don't take the same lesson from when I say something, because I present it in a matter of this is kind of what I go through, this is how I deal with it. But to hear it from somebody like you that really had issues and were able to reclaim your home and
Yeah.
make it you know a good place to be again, is definitely a wonderful thing in my eyes. And I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. And like I said,
So
who knows? Maybe somebody out there does have abilities, and that's maybe why they're having issues because they're trying to suppress it, cut it off. Don't do that.
it can definitely, I know I had issues a lot of my life because I didn't want to acknowledge that the things that I could do, not everybody could do. Once I figured it out that it wasn't everybody, it was just me. But um yeah, well, thank you again, Amber. I really appreciate you coming on the show. um Maybe in the future we can have you back on again to get an update or something like that, see how things are going
Sure.
with you, seeing how the kids are progressing, seeing how you're progressing with your gifts, now that you're pursuing that and trying to understand your
It's
journey.
good. They won't shut up now. The voices don't shut up.
Yeah, it can get aggravating sometimes, I know.
But
but there,
I like when I go through Walmart now and I randomly just get a message, and it's like you see a stranger's like, hey, your dad, his name's Greg. He wants me to tell you, you know,
right.
such and such and such, and they kind of look at me like, okay,
Well, I'll give you a piece of advice as far as ethics go. I wouldn't do that. And here's
okay,
why. You remember the look that was on Matt's face when his whole belief system got blown apart?
yeah,
Not everybody takes it as well as he does. Um,
yeah. I
so
haven't ran into anybody bad yet.
right, yeah, and I've had a few cases where I've I just had to, um, but I typically you don't want to smash somebody's belief system like that. If they seek you out, um, then that's a different story. But walking up to random strangers and saying, "Hey, look, I don't know why your dad is bugging the shit out of me so much to tell you this." It's just, it's honestly not a great idea. You don't, you can change free will and like that. You can break a belief system. So I would be very careful when you do that. But I am very excited that you're continuing your journey. You're getting back on the path to figuring that out and connecting the way you're supposed to. And I think your life will get better now that you're not trying to deny that. I know mine did when I went on this journey. It got a lot easier when I accepted, look, I'm just on this path and I need to learn and figure it out. My life changed a lot, a
Oh,
lot.
most definitely.
I mean, to the point where I thought I was crazy. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I can't be hearing this. I can't be getting this picture. Why is this accurate? Why, when I, talk to somebody, how can I tell them, exactly who their loved one is and describe them and what they're saying and be accurate like that. I was like, there's no way that like I'm literally going crazy. And the part that made me feel so crazy is when nobody's around and they come to you because they're looking for help or something like that, and you hear them or you see them, and you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. I think you're a little further on the path than where when I started, but um, I'm excited to see how that turns out for you. So you got to keep me updated, okay?
Okay, I'll stop scaring people in the local
Yeah,
Walmart.
be very careful with that. I like I said, I had an instance not too long ago, maybe a month or so ago, where we had a truck driver come in, and her aunt came to me and started telling me things, and I was like, look, I'm not walking up to this lady and just blurting this out. Like, I'm not gonna break her faith. And her aunt was like, look, she will accept it. If anybody does, she'll understand and she'll know what you're talking about. So I approached her and it turned out well. But I've also seen where that didn't. So I would be very careful and hesitant to approach people. You know what I mean? If they come to you, it's a different story, but approaching them really can start affecting free will. And you do not want to go down that road. Trust me. There are consequences to doing that, and you will feel crazy when it happens. So just be very careful, ethically like that, to how you give out information that you're getting. It's very validating, right? When you pick up something and you find out that you're accurate, it's very validating, and it's very addicting.
Well, it's just nice to know you're not crazy.
Right. Well, here's the thing. You can know you're not crazy without getting that validation. But just be careful with that. That's the only thing I would caution you with is just strangers. You don't want Matt's look on their face. You know what I mean? It's just be careful. So, but anyways, thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate you coming in, telling your story. I hope this helps somebody. I hope this helped you a little bit. Um, but I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, I hope this helps somebody that could be in the same situation. I really do.
Right. Right. And I think it will. I honestly think that will. And I think that you may be the catalyst to people around you in the near future.
Well, you can't be scared to say anything.
Right. I have big hopes for you. I have big hopes for you. I have some expectations because I think you can do it. I think you can do it. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
I have faith in you.
All
I have
right.
faith in you. All right. Well, everybody, I really appreciate you guys sticking with us and listening to the story. If you'll stick around for a few seconds, you'll listen to how you can get a hold of us here at Paranormal Unveiling and the Paranormal Science Investigators investigation team. If you'll stick around a few minutes, you'll get all the information. Just listen to the outro. Everybody, good night. Thank you for listening. We'll see you. Thank you for listening to the show. And remember, we want to hear from you. Do you have questions about the paranormal? About mediumship? Do you have a story of an experience you just can't explain? Well, do us a favor. Email us at paranormalscienceinvestigators@gmail.com. And your question or story may end up on the show. And if you'd like to see our video content, you can check us out on YouTube at paranormal_investigators or on TikTok with the same name. Or if you'd like to do Instagram, it's Josh_paranormal_investigators. Come check out our video content of actual paranormal investigations and our everyday content. Just look for the yellow PSI logo. Thank you again. We'll see you on the next episode. Love y'all. Bye-bye.